everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Kim, and I'm here with Shira, Lee, and Juji. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. Today, we are going to talk about friendships. Some span an entire lifetime, while others aren't always forever. So what are some experiences you gals have had with friendships coming and going?
I guess I'll go first. I feel like this is a topic that is really important. I actually saw a meme the other day that was like, nobody tells you about how painful friendship breakups can be. And, as I get older, sometimes friends just kind of fall off, like we lose touch or whatever. But when I was younger, I definitely had some more dramatic instances where there was sort of like a blow up and a loss of a friendship. Like somebody that I felt really, really close to was then no longer in my life. And I actually always took that harder than like romantic breakups because, in your 20s, you kind of figure like, yeah, probably not gonna like end up with this guy. But, when you're in a friendship with somebody, you're like, this is gonna last forever. And like, we're gonna have, this lifetime of friendship. And then when that doesn't come to fruition, it's like, it's kind of a smack in the face. And I always blamed myself. I always blamed myself for why those things didn't work out. And I would say that, friendships are also a way to try to understand like who you are in the world. Like you date to experiment with like what kind of relationship you want, but friendships are the same way. And I feel like the reason why I can understand why our friendship is so important to me is because I've had the experience of, friendships that didn't work out, friendships where I didn't feel seen, friendships where I didn't really feel connected in a way where I was accepted for who I was. So it's just as much a part of the journey in terms of, growth.
I have a question for you, Zhuge. So, and actually for all of us, but because it just dawned on me that, how we say when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And that I usually equate that with romantic, like, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But it just suddenly dawned on me. It's like, in your experiences of having these breakups, like, can you look back on that friendship relationship and go, yeah, there were some signs in the beginning that maybe something wasn't quite solid?
I would want to say that my approach to friendships in my early years was.
What do you mean by early years? You're the youngest among us.
You're still
Okay,
in the early
teenager.
I would say like late teens and throughout my 20s.
Okay.
My approach to friendship would be, I would just want to present myself as like the best friend you could ever possibly have. And that was a little people pleasy. It was really sort of like enabling a lot of situations. And eventually I would start to feel resentful. Like I was giving so much and not really getting that much back. And I would keep waiting for this friend of mine to like come correct. I would keep waiting for her to like see how amazing I am. And like, we had that episode, like you don't get more appreciation by giving more of what somebody already doesn't appreciate. So, it would come to a head eventually. It was unsustainable the way that it was going anyway. So it would come to a head and I would eventually usually do something that didn't line up with this like perfect friend scenario. And then inevitably that person would be like, well, you're not the friend I thought you were. And I'd be like, no, because I have been trying to be perfect for you. And, I can't keep doing that because like energetically, it just didn't feel right. And I can look
Also,
at,
that's not friendship.
right, exactly,
Right.
exactly. But I can look back at those scenarios now and see what was happening at the time. I would just be like, woe is me. Why does this always happen? Like, why do I always choose these friends who don't care and like all this stuff? And don't get me wrong, I still have lots of friends from college and even high school and stuff like that. So people have stuck around, but there were quite a few instances that didn't end up happening, and they were very sad, but I learned a lot from it. So I'm happy that it happened that way.
Nobody, well, I mean, in my life, in my experience, nobody ever told me that friends going in and out or friends withering away as time went on, or friends, sticking around, whatever, the coming and going. No one ever said, Kim, that's natural. That's a very natural part of life. As we
No one
change.
ever said anything to us. I mean, take any of the 90 topics plus we've done so far. No one ever mentioned any of those.
That's so true. We're left to our own devices and figuring all this stuff out as we grow up. But a lot of stuff you said, Juji, I relate to. When I was younger, I didn't really know how to be a good friend, I guess. You figure it out as you go. You hear people's needs, you do your best. Everybody is raised differently. Everybody is, different socially and emotionally. So, I remember when I think I was 15 or so, and I had this girlfriend who was like my best friend since I was 2. We were neighbors, and she was just my like bestest friend in the whole world. Thought she'd be in my life forever. Thought she'd be like, my maid of honor at my wedding, and like just friends till we die kind of friend. And it was the first time at 15 that I ever had a friend sort of, talk about withering away, like just start that disconnection. And it was because something very traumatic happened in her family. Her uncle got murdered, and it was really, really hard on her whole family. And as you can imagine. And at 15 years old, she didn't know how to handle her emotions. And I didn't know how to be there for her because I didn't know what the heck she was experiencing emotionally. And so even looking back, I still don't even sort of know what happened. Like we just sort of lost contact. Like right when that happened, everything changed. So, and eventually she moved and went on to have a family, and we're Facebook friends, but there's like just no, that was like just another time. And that was the first time where I ever experienced a friend like moving away from me and not having, like it just completely stopping. And back then I couldn't explain it, and it just wasn't okay. And I remember moving on through my other friendships, just not being okay with the fact that like friends didn't stick around. I remember talking about it in therapy when I was 16. I remember just, if someone didn't have, because we're not friends with people, or we lose contact with friends for all sorts of different reasons. So just over the years, as I was going into my late teens and my 20s, people have different lifestyles, people move, people, there's just so many different reasons why you lose contact and whatever. But it wasn't until my 30s that I started to notice that it was my choice. I can choose where to put time and consistency to nurture a friendship. Like that's what friendships need. And there are those friends that like mirror my life a little more than others. And it makes it easier, like that's why we all have such a close bond. Like we're similar, we have similar lifestyles, we have similar values and beliefs. And, we mirror each other in a lot of ways. So there's no doubt in my mind that you guys will be around for the long haul, but I've thought that about a lot of other friends too. And I've chosen to. What was that face?
That was like, what do you mean by that?
Going
Totally kidding.
anywhere.
It's me being Shira. Just ignore me.
But it's just, yeah, I just feel like as I get older, I'm learning a lot about friendships and how natural it really is to, for some to take precedent over others, and that's okay. Where when I was younger, it definitely didn't feel good and it didn't feel okay. And if a friend, spent more time with her boyfriend than me, I'd feel like abandoned, but as I get older, it feels way more natural now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we get older, like you just said, Kim, is what I feel, we're different people. I'm a different person today than I was when I was in my teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, right? And I feel like, yes, today we can choose who we want to be with, whereas when I was younger, I feel like a lot of the friends that I had were more conveniences. It was convenient because here's where you lived and here's the school you went to and here's who you played with on the playground. I don't remember so much of even thinking of choosing a friend back then, and going through elementary school and high school. For me, a lot of the friendships that were lost were not so much we didn't have any blowout fights that I recall. Although I'm sure there were certain conflicts that I've had with friends, but it was more out of moving. Now, you mentioned moving before, and for me, when I was 7, we moved from Israel to America. And then when I was 14, we moved from one town to a whole nother town in the suburbs. And so the act of creating more friendships or making friends for me was more of I guess it was like a job. It was like I'm starting from scratch. And every time I did lose a friend, and again, I don't so much necessarily think it was because we had a big fight, but we probably just grew out, we grew in our own ways, went our separate ways and whatnot. But it was just sad for me. Way back when, it was more sad for me to lose a friend, even when I was moving, knowing that, I may not see them again. So that was a sad thing for me, but what's great today is, yes, we get to choose our friends. We get to be around people who we resonate with and we're more compatible with. And I think we're also so much more grown up where, it's okay to move on from certain friendships. So in all of the ways, it's in a different experience for me. So much more wonderful. I can so much more value and appreciate the friendships that I have today.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the kind of friend that I've been. Just this whole topic really makes you start to think and sort of internalize what friendship actually is. And I think for me, because you all know that I went through, leaving my marriage and sort of living in shame and, just going through a lot of inner turmoil that I kept sort of poo-pooing. And I think that impacted the kind of friend that I was, because I feel like a different person now because I'm allowing myself to be more authentic and more vulnerable. Whereas before it was just like, nope, keep your shit together. Sure, it's going to get better. Don't worry. Meanwhile, I'm freaking sinking. It's how good of a friend can you actually be when you're not being transparent? You're not being honest with yourself. You're not being honest with other people. You're sort of living in this bubble, if you will, in isolation a little bit. So I think physically I had a lot of friends, but emotionally I wasn't divulging even to my own twin sister what was my deepest, darkest fears and struggles. So I felt like I couldn't really be the kind of friend that I am today, because we're here to sort of bounce ideas off of each other, whether we agree or disagree. And there have been friendships over the last few years where it's not like I've, gotten rid of them, but I realized that if there are certain topics that are hot buttons, if you really value a friendship, you can make a decision not to talk about that instead of losing the friendship. And I've seen a lot of stuff, even like politically and just socially, et cetera, like where people like don't agree with each other and they're just like, oh, I can't be friends with you. And it's like, that's not, then it wasn't really a strong friendship to begin with, in my opinion. Because if you're, obviously, if you have completely different values and the person's like messed up and you can't relate at all, that's one thing. Like some people just change very drastically. But if you find there are hot button topics that you're finding like, oh, wow, I really don't agree, but we have this strong base, then you make a decision mutually to be like, you know what, we can't talk about that. And that should be okay. Maybe it's not sometimes, but
Yeah, and that should be okay. You know, I always used to tell my son when he was meeting people and meeting friends, I used to tell him, you know, it's okay to be friends with so many different types of people. Like they don't have to be exactly like you, or like the things that you like and dislike the things that you dislike. Because, you know, I always felt like in my repertoire of friends, I have a couple of friends who are just so much fun to be with. And they make me laugh, and they're just pissers. And I don't necessarily know that I would, console, or consult with them on some of my deepest things and experiences. But I have other friends that I could do that with, and I have serious friends, and I have smart friends, and I have dumb friends. But like, I have a love for each one of these friends in a whole different way, you know, so it's okay to have this. But do you guys think that our collective circle of friends is kind of a reflection on who we are?
isn't there like a phrase that say you are the culmination of the 5 people you spend the most time with or something like that?
There you go, bingo. I knew I'd get a quote out of you.
Always count on that.
I wouldn't expect anything less.
That was the mirroring I was talking about too earlier.
Yes, the mirroring. And I feel like, again, the older we get, the wiser we are, the more experienced we are, is like we get to create that. We get to choose.
And we attract it too,
Yes.
for like all the different, wherever we are at in life, whatever we're attracting, I believe we're attracting people into our lives. Like I believe I've attracted each and every one of you into my life for huge reasons, huge.
Yeah.
And another thing too, just as I, in talking about this topic, what I realized too was what kind of friend I want to be, but also I've definitely put a lot of pressure and expectation on myself as a friend. I think I can handle more than I can with my time, with my, just my energy and all of that. So that's been sort of good to look at, like, sometimes I'm scared to disappoint people. But in truth, when I really look at it, I just don't have the bandwidth sometimes to keep up with a lot of my friends, and I have a lot of different circles because I move around in my career. I'm always moving from a project to a project, and I'm definitely like a people person. So I collect people and I fall in love with people all the time. But in actuality, there's only one of me, and I don't really have all this time and energy to nurture every single person. So I choose which ones take precedent over others and all that. But it's been good to look at myself and really be honest with how much I have to give before taking it away from my own self-care,
Oh my God, that so reminds me. Oh, sorry, Lee, were you going to say something before? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Kim, do you feel that responsibility though? Because it almost sounds like, I don't have time to take care of these friends where, I feel like in a true friendship, it's okay if we don't talk for a few weeks or a month or whatever, where it's not your responsibility to have that nurturing available to these friends. And it won't make you a bad friend if you're still friends with them, but don't have that to offer.
Lee, it's so beautiful that you just pointed that out, because at 45 years old, I'm finally learning I'm not responsible for others, even when they're super close to me. I know, Susie, I've graduated. It doesn't mean that I don't feel it sometimes still. It's something I'm working on, because I have felt responsible a lot, like my whole life probably. So I'm working on that now, but I'm glad you pointed that out for anyone listening who might feel the same way, because I don't think I really ever saw before, like fully clearly saw that I felt that way. It was so deep and ingrained somewhere through my childhood or conditioning or whatever, So to be aware, that's why like and I'd love to encourage anyone listening to really look at what kind of friend they are versus what kind of friend they really like to be and what they truly can offer someone else after they've given themselves everything they need, because it really does make you look at, it's only like you said earlier, Shira, like you have to give all the love you need to yourself first, and then you're able to give it to others.
Did I say that?
Well, in so many words, in so many words.
Probably quoted that.
No, it's actually funny because the one thing that I wanted to share that I think is so important, and you all know that I read Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And the fascinating thing about that is the book is predominantly about cleaning out your shit and organizing your stuff in a way that you never have before. Because most people are like, oh, I'll go from room to room and clean it up. And then 2 months later, it's like worse than it was before. But what she says at the end of the book, which I found fascinating, is that when you are able to organize things in a proper, maintainable way, it forces you to, or it actually prompts you to look at other places in your life that need cleaning up, including your relationships. And interestingly, the year after I read this book is when things started to really, I want to say fall apart or fall into place. I don't know, but like certainly with my main relationship, which was with my ex, I just had this aha moment one day where I'm just like, oh, that book really, it just shifts your whole mindset in terms of organization and clarity. And I highly recommend it because it does spill over into other areas of your life. And some people need cleaning up of relationships. Some relationships are just stale and they just stay there. And it's like, why? Like life is so beautiful and precious. Like don't waste it on people who you can't emotionally properly invest in.
Yeah. And, I got to say that sometimes we are guilty of being those people too, because when I look at the old me, I can see that in certain situations, misery loves company. And so when you befriend somebody who's going through something tragic, horrific, sad, whatever, and you are too, it's easier and safer to sometimes be around those people, right? Because misery loves company. But today it's like, wow, I see it so much more clearly of like, these are the types of situations that I try to clear out of my life. Yes, I can still support somebody. I can be compassionate. I can help you. But I will not, or I try to always be aware of not falling into that. No, like don't take that bait, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
And this is part of my clearing out as well. It's like, I don't want to engage in that if it's going to bring me down as a whole in general with the friendship. We all have our down times, but I'm talking about people today that I can think of that are just miserable all the time.
Debbie Downers, you mean?
Debbie major downers. But like it doesn't stop. For some people, it just a small handful that I know in my life where it's like, wow, and all you could do is throw love and compassion their way, but like you kind of just don't want to be dragged into that whole aura.
Right. You have to do oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There's someone on the other line. I have to take this call. Okay, bye.
Well, and Leah, I've definitely mentioned this before in other episodes, but the day that I was in therapy when I was 16 and the therapist said, not everyone's going to like you. And me being like, what? And then she followed it up with, well, do you like everybody? And I was like, oh, no.
That's really helpful, I have to say. When you said that in the other episode, I was just like, uh-huh.
Still not easy to digest. People not liking us.
My sister's friend, who very sadly passed away, said the following. I know I keep doing the quote thing. If everybody likes you, you're trying too hard.
Yeah. I like that quote. I love your quotes, Shira, all of them. So
they're never mine. They're always borrowed, but I just remember them because they like resonate with me so much.
Well, that's a great quote to end on, I think. If you guys agree, I think that's a great place to wrap this episode up. So we hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. And if you like our episodes, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests, questions, comments. by commenting below. And we'll see you soon. Thanks everyone for watching. Stay safe.
Bye.